Welcome to PageStarter podcast. This is Lisa Furland, and today I am joined with Zack Applewhite. He is employed as a search engine optimization and digital marketing strategist. On the side, Zack has a great deal of passion for stories and the people who craft them, and he is always eager to offer tricks, strategy, and advice to help his community. Welcome, Zack. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is so great. So you have a number of serial Kickstarter successes under your belt. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that strategy because you do run a different strategy. Most campaigns, especially in publishing, are around $5,000 to $8,000 on average. But you run something that you call a micro Kickstarter campaign. So can you explain a little bit about that and about how you got into first running micro Kickstarters?
Absolutely. So micro Kickstarters, and some of you might have heard of quick starters. Okay, it's a very similar concept, except I'm giving it a little more voice, and I'm wrapping a bigger strategy around it. All right. So the idea of a micro Kickstarter is that it's something that is low stakes for the creator and for the backer. All right. It's something that can be done and fulfilled very easily and confidently. And it's a way to put yourself out there, begin engaging with the platform, growing your audience, testing out things, and getting market viability before you take this big lunge, this big leap into something bigger. It was actually born out of me seeing people. I'd been doing it for a while, but I actually started to put together the strategy and communicate it because I've seen so many awesome creators, artists, writers everywhere that they start off with like a $10,000 funding goal and they raise like $2,500. Well, Kickstarter is an all or nothing platform. And so they're considered a failure. All right. And less than 20% of those who fail on their first Kickstarter are going to return anytime soon because they've been discouraged. They think that the market told them that they're a failure. All right. But I know from experience, you don't need $10,000 to launch a book. Maybe you don't need the audiobook and 3 different versions of the book. Okay, you actually only need, if you're using something like Lulu and you're just shipping the book and you're in the US and so you can get media rate shipping, you only need about $500, all right, to actually get funded and put your book out there for the first time. And so raising $2,000 should never be considered a failure. What the market actually showed you is that right now, as you are with your first time trying something, you were able to get over 100, let's say, people to say, take my money, I want your thing. All right. So it's also a matter of setting yourself up for success. All right. The way that I started doing it is I actually started selling poems for $1. I was delivering pizza. I was a full-time college student working 50 hours a week, and I had a bun in the oven with my wife, and I just kept doing these. All right. But I sold it for $1. I maybe raised on my first Kickstarter less than $50. And I had a funding goal of $1 back when they would let you do that. Since then, I've raised over $15,000, over 20 campaigns. And the strategy in summary is basically just build your castle one brick at a time, rather than trying to do it all at once. Think about it like remodeling a home. You could remodel the whole house, and then all the over budgets and all the mistakes and everything happens with that whole house, the place where you live and you've put so much work into. Or you could remodel just the kitchen, learn everything from that, realize that you don't want to work with this contractor and that you don't want to do things a certain way, that the budget's not exactly how you thought it was going to work. And now that you've learned everything, you're much more equipped to take on that bigger project. And that's what we finally did with Kaylin's debut novel, Awakening Anne, was the bigger project where we had never raised more than, I think, $1,500, $1,500 on a Kickstarter campaign. And with this one, we reached nearly $7,000. All of that was because we took everything we learned, we gained confidence, we gained an audience, and we were able to leverage all of that toward the bigger project, all while still living our life and me finishing out college and getting the job, having the kids. And so it's a way to start putting yourself out into the world and building something without sacrificing, your mental health, your financial stability, or your work-life balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's super interesting to me because again, I work with authors who are, they're looking to recoup $10,000, $15,000 in expenses. And a lot of it is, illustration expenses, offset printing expenses, things like that. So your strategy of saying, okay, we're going to have a micro goal, $100 goal. Let's say we're going to have $100 goal and exceed that very quickly. Now, as part of the strategy to be 1,000% funded on Kickstarter and appear raise through the algorithm and grab more attention on the platform itself, or can you walk me through a little bit more about the larger strategy around this micro approach?
Yeah, so the first thing is that there's a few different ways to go about the micro approach just in itself. So, for example, we actually started Kaylin off. We're big nerds. We play Dungeons and Dragons, and so we also started writing materials that you can play in your Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And once we did that for a little bit, Kaylin started to add short stories to those in that setting of the game. All right, that was a way of introducing her as an author to people who knew her as a game writer, and then we were able to collect all of those short stories, add in a bunch of new ones, and create a book of short stories set in the tabletop gaming universe of her Dungeons and Dragons world. All right. All of that was a perfect, viable market test to say if we can sell a collection of TTRPG short stories, which no one is Googling for, no one is searching for that. Okay, if we can sell that, we feel confident we can sell anything. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's the first bit of just like collectively gaining and pivoting toward the writing that she wants to do, because now we had to transfer this fantasy audience over to her more romantic mystery type of stuff. And we lost some people there, but we still had a lot more than we would have if we just started out that way. So that's the first bit. The second bit is that we did $1 campaigns. Okay, so these are things called one shots, which is a game you can play in one night with your friends if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, whereas a campaign can take many, many nights. Okay, so we sell this one shot. It's $1. It's a way of actually growing an email list. Okay. And it's not actually, it does get you more easily circulated around Kickstarter, and people have a very low barrier to entry. It's a way of buying something from you without investing a ton of money, knowing that they're going to get it. You build a track record for yourself. And we see a lot of people who buy from us at that very small level convert to be people who buy $40 worth of purely digital material. We don't have to print anything. All right. And then we're able to take all that money, put it into a savings account so that when we bought this amazing cover art that we have for Kaylin's book, we had the money in the bank to do so, just built up slowly over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating. So did you launch without an audience in the beginning? You launched without an audience and just kind of used each successive crowdfunding campaign to grow your audience. Was that the approach?
That's the core approach. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the core approach is you could do without almost any social media for your very first one, tell your friends and family. And then after that, just keep connecting with your audience. If your products are good, they'll return. We have a very excellent return rate of backers. Okay. Now, it also, of course, helps if you're doing social media as well, which we work to do. We've grown Kaylin's Facebook very well. I started on Twitter. I've grown a TikTok to 15,000 followers, 15, not 50, 1,000 followers. And so, and we've been able to leverage those a little bit, but it's mostly, it becomes almost like a micro networking thing, where you get to be very hands-on with your customers through the backer updates. And then you can say, hey, by the way, do you want to join my email list? And we'll let you know the next time we launch something. And then you can go, we took her correct collection of short stories to an event, and we actually got a lot of people who had never been on Kickstarter before sign up because we had a big, beautiful poster of the book to come, of Kaylin's debut novel, Awakening Anne, with that beautiful cover art. And it drew people in. And so actually for that one, we did something new, and we were able to start off with 20 people who had never been on Kickstarter, ready to back that day. They signed up for the email list. And that was a pivot point. And that's the point of the micro Kickstarter, is that hopefully you're not doing these forever. This is a way to build the foundation for something bigger. All right. And there's going to be a pivot point where you're going to do new things that are going to capitalize on all the momentum you built for yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And so you did 6 micro and then launched Awakening Anne, which was with, I think, what was the campaign goal amount for that one? Was that 4,000?
I think it was only like $1,000.
1,000 still? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we're very much we throw the vanity out the window. We've done the math. The math is, and we paid good money for that cover art. All right. We were also willing to take a loss
Mhm.
on this one. But we've always set ourselves of like, what's the minimum amount to make all of this worth it? What's the minimum amount to say that we have something here? So when we're doing the completely digital TTRPG D&D stuff, it's a funding goal of only $100 because if I can't raise $100, I did something wrong.
Yeah.
I did something wrong and I need to go back to the drawing board. Same thing with this book. If we couldn't raise $1,000 when we were able to sell a collection of TTRPG short stories for a funding goal of 500, okay, if we can't then make 1,000 off of what we consider to be a much fuller, better collective work, then we're doing something wrong and we need to go back to the drawing board. All right. And of course, Kickstarter lets you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
We got fully funded early. This lets everyone know that we're very capable, that we're very confident, competent, and that they're backing a winning horse. And so now it's more about how far can we make this thing go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I love it that, you know, the small goal takes the stress out. Do you think possibly a downside would be the small goal may, I guess, for some creators, they say, oh, once I reached my goal, I kind of lost momentum. Like people helped me achieve my goal, but then once I reached my goal, the momentum dropped off and I didn't get as many backers as I did in the beginning when I was pre hitting the goal. Have you seen that on your side? Or do you think it's even easier to say, okay, this is definitely happening now, we can add more and more? And is that something you do with stretch goals to entice people to keep coming and sharing the campaign?
So in the micros, that when we're just doing the ones that are like 100, maximum 500, we have stretch goals all planned out to keep people engaged. And it's mostly that in general, no matter what you do, no matter where your goal is, your first 2 or 3 days and your last 2 or 3 days are going to be your biggest. And you're almost always going to have a little plateau with like maybe some incline and sometimes often a complete flat line, because all you let all your audience know, everyone knows within the first couple of days that you've launched. Okay. That's where most of your conversion is going to happen. All right. So we've always experienced that bit of plateau. We kind of help get that on the incline, usually by doing stretch goals, by engaging with our audience, by doing backer updates. With this last one, we had a whole bunch of people that had never been on Kickstarter before. So we just made updates that were like, here's what it means to be a backer. Here's what you can expect once we finished. We have a survey. We'll need you to fill it out so that we can deliver your reward. Your reward will be delivered approximately at this time and through these mediums. So it's an excellent time to just connect. And whenever we had an event that we were doing, we took pictures, we let them know. It's like its own miniature e-newsletter while you're running the campaign. And so we were doing a post every 3 days or so as a way to keep them engaged, even if we weren't growing exponentially. We were keeping our base very engaged, very strong, and we were taking that time to build a brand so that when people received their books, and this has already happened, they're excited about it. This has been amped up and built for them. Even though that funding goal wasn't raising, we're our own cheerleaders. We don't need Kickstarter to cheerlead for us. We're good at it. We're loud about it. This is what Kayla's been dreaming of since she was 9. So that's definitely, it's going to happen. You're going to do that. My one thing that I would recommend for that, I've hit my funding goal and now I feel like I'm losing momentum. 1, we all lose momentum. It's natural. 2, shorten the amount of time. For this last one, we did 30 days. That's too long. We usually only do 14 to 21 days. It's too long. And the extra people you get in those extra like 5 days is so minuscule in comparison to the mental health of having to worry about it for those extra 5 days where you're barely growing, that I would just say shorten the campaign, especially for doing a micro campaign. We never go longer than 21 days because we want it done quickly. We want people to get their rewards quickly, and we've already funded and we've already hit 90% of the people who were ever going to back us.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. A micro campaign does not need 30 days. That's painful. It's
No,
absolutely painful.
it is absolutely painful.
Even a 10K campaign, it's like 30 days. Get in, get out. It's too much. It's just too much stress on the creator, and you burn out your audience much longer than that. So amazing. So in terms of, because you have so many Kickstarters under your belt and you've been through this time after time again, what advice would you give to authors who are looking to do this for the first time? And then I guess if any different advice is for someone coming to it the nth time. No, it's almost like having children, like no two children are the same. You're a different person each time you launch another project. So what advice would you give authors in those two different scenarios, a first-time launcher and a subsequent launcher?
Yeah, so 100%. Let's start with, let's say you have, not a huge following. You're coming out of this completely green. My first piece of advice is just go nuts. Have fun. It doesn't even have to be about writing. We originally started, where you looked at our Applewhite Games Kickstarter. We actually started with one called Beta Games, okay, where that's where I wrote poetry. We did some kids materials. We did, Kaylin crocheted dice bags that she designed. We did that was a sandbox. We did anything and everything we wanted to do with no rhyme or reason other than like, could we make money off of this? And will we enjoy doing it? I have an idea. Let's do the idea. All right. It's an excellent time to just take a moment to enjoy the process and learn from the process, so that when you're facing that thing that you're really passionate about, that debut novel, you have all the tools you need to make it a success. For someone who is, has a little skin in the game already, whether that's because they've run a couple of Kickstarters or because they already had a following as an author, but they're thinking of going over to Kickstarter, I would consider the micro Kickstarter approach only if you want to either A, find a way to grow your audience. So let's say you did an anthology with other authors. All right. That's something that you could say, hey, we're just doing this for fun because we love to write. We all had these short stories lying around and we wanted to give them to you. So you turn it into a networking event. You turn it into something that is a low stakes for you. And it's a great way to start crossing over people's audiences in a way to introduce you to everybody. And you get your toes wet and you get to do something that's fun and interesting and low stakes, while also getting a lot of opportunity to grow that email list, grow that social media following, and introduce your work to a new audience. Mm-hmm. So those would be my different recommendations for the different children, kind of analogy.
The different use cases there. No, that's great. Now, in terms of, if someone were to look at running a Kickstarter campaign to grow their audience, there are certain rules that Kickstarter has and how you can use backer data. Can you explain a little on what's the best way that you have found to convert backers into email subscribers in, the best way? Because some people, they're like, no, I backed you on Kickstarter. I'm good. I'm done. So how do you convert them into being a loyal member of your audience?
So I'll start by addressing what is a real problem, because I'm on a Facebook group of authors who run or follow and back Kickstarters. Okay. And we have recently seen, I think since Brandon Sanderson has kind of opened a floodgate of new attention and authors coming in, and they don't quite know or understand the rules. And so they're making mistakes and they're probably not realizing that they're doing it. The number one thing I'm seeing is that people are like, I bought a $5 ebook and now I am on the newsletter from hell. And I never said I wanted to be on this newsletter. I said I wanted an ebook. It is written down in Kickstarter's rules that what I give you to send me my reward is not something that you can use for your own personal purposes. Okay. And that if you do so, I, as a backer, have a right to report you, which can lead to your account being suspended. Okay. So if you get an email so that you can deliver your ebook because you were running a micro Kickstarter and you didn't want to ship anything and you kept it real light, that's great. That email, once you've delivered, that goes into a black hole that you're not ethically supposed to touch. Now, How do you then get those people to go in? First, at the end of that ebook, you have a way to sign up for your newsletter. It goes to a link tree or it goes directly to a survey where they can sign up for your newsletter. You can also prompt them there to say, hey, now that you've read this book, review it on Amazon or wherever else you have it. The second thing that we usually do is, 2 to 3 months after they've received their reward, send a backer survey. All right. This is something that you put in your backer updates on Kickstarter. All right. Which goes out straight to their email. And you say, hey, you got the book. I want to hear what you think. Tell me how I did. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what you didn't like. Did you connect with the main character? Here's just 10 quick questions. It'll take 5 minutes. By the way, at the end of that survey, if you want to hear what I'm doing next, please put your email here and I will let you know what I'm doing next. I promise not to bug you. All right. Or sign up for my newsletter. I will bug you, but it'll be entertaining.
And you consented. So
they've consented. These are also people who are highly, highly qualified. Your open rate's going to be higher on those emails because they've invested something in you at this point. They have invested their time and money finding your campaign and buying it, and then they reinvested their time giving you feedback. And at this point, they should want you to succeed. And then they signed up to say, I want to see where you go with this. I want to watch you take this to the next level. All right. Because I'll also say that if you're just pulling out people's emails and you're creating all of this bad blood between you and the backers who did not sign up for that, not only have you disrupted your brand, your open rate's going to go tank and you're going to end up in the spam folder. All right. And so that's another nice tool of Kickstarter. With every micro Kickstarter you launch, every time you post a backer update, that's its own little email list. It goes straight to their email where they can open it and they can see what you're doing next. So every time we launch Kaylin's Kickstarters, we're letting our past Kickstarter backers know, hey, look what's happening. All right. So for example, you did that anthology work. Every time you post an update on that, let's say it was cheap, you did an ebook, it was $10 for all these authors, an amazing deal. You got 100 backers on there. Most of them never heard of you before. The next time you're launching a project, you're letting them know. Mm-hmm. And you didn't even have to get them to sign up for an email list. Right. All right. Better if you can. Absolutely. Better if you can. But they're still there.
Yeah. As long as they're not ignoring Kickstarter emails.
As long as they're not ignoring Kickstarter emails. And that is something that can happen. And it's always, Kickstarter. We've seen with Twitter, sometimes a rich guy just walks in and ruins it for everybody. Don't want your eggs all in one basket. I definitely recommend getting them off platform to connect with you personally as soon as and as frequently as possible. But it's also a nice little security to know that even if you're having trouble, doing that, you still have this mechanism at your disposal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like what you said about asking for feedback a few months after people have had a chance to read it. And mm-hmm. because that's something I found is that when you ask for feedback, it shows that you're open to feedback. So people automatically, and they're like, okay, you're a real human, you're a real person. Like I can talk to you. You're asking for my feedback and you're telling them that you value them as a member of the community and they can help shape your writing in the future. And I think that just means a lot to a reader to say, oh, wow, like I did have opinions about this book and I do think I can help you improve, because that's mistakenly where a lot of readers leave in book reviews thinking that it's going to the author instead of going to other readers. Book reviews are for readers, not for the writers. And so to give them an outlet to provide you that feedback that's intended for the purpose of giving the author the feedback, I think that's really helpful in terms of community building and all this back and forth conversation.
Yep. And that's one hack that I've definitely seen utilize pretty well is to end with like a snippet of like, can you tell, if you were selling this, if you were telling a friend your favorite parts of this book, what would it be? All right, let them write that out. And then you can prompt them with like, by the way, can you review this book? And you can just copy and paste whatever you want from this survey to the book. All right. They will almost definitely copy and paste that little paragraph those 2 sentences that they just wrote about what they liked about your book, because you did give them that outlet and you prompted them and you've made the work less for them. It's a simple copy paste for them now.
Yeah. Yep. And generally, if someone backs your Kickstarter campaign before it even exists, they do want to help you. They do want to leave. They know that reviews on Amazon and Goodreads are part of how you get discovered as an author. So it generally is a good seed group to put up a bunch of reviews on Amazon for you. So then you can have sort of another mini launch on Amazon.
Mhm.
So okay, so it's pretty clear that this Kickstarter approach has worked for you. Have you launched titles off of Kickstarter, or have you done all on Kickstarter?
So this is where like we're experimenting a little bit. This is now we're encroaching on new territory for us. We launched the ebook on Amazon, but we're still in the fulfillment process for Kickstarter. All right. So ideally, you would have all the books ready to go. And if we had just done a regular paperback, that's what we would have done. We did that with Chronicles of Aragarth, which was the TTRPG short story collection. It's just paperbacks. We ship them out. They're shipped out. Great. Let's go straight to Amazon. All right. And then we can like reconnect and try and get people over. Okay. That first time, like I said, that was us learning. So we made a lot of mistakes. With this latest one, the new thing we also did was that we had this really awesome, ornate hardcover version. Okay, it's more expensive. It's being produced over in like France by a company called Pulsio. It's taking more time because it's more labor intensive. It is more, okay. But what that has done is it's kind of clogged up our system so that we don't want to put out the paperback version on Amazon until we believe we're getting close to at least to the point of sending out these special ornate hardcover editions. Okay. But by putting the ebook on there, we've been able to have an outlet where people can go and review it. Okay. Because we were able to send out everyone who ordered an ebook, we sent that out right away. Once we had the paperbacks from Lulu, we shipped those out right away. All right. And so we have been kind of like, I think I've been pumping the brakes on really engaging the whole audience that backed us to go and review because I'm waiting for those. One, I'm waiting for the paperback launch, which comes in August on Amazon, because that's when we expected to have our hardcovers from Pulsio. All right. And because I want everyone to have at least their book on their way before I start telling them that other people are getting the book.
Right.
Now that's created a little bit of difficulty where this was the first time working with Pulsio, so we're still learning some things. There's a little bit of mistakes. And to speak to that, just be clear with your audience. Okay. Don't let them find out from anyone else. Okay. It's just like if you make a mistake at work, do you want Shannon to tell your boss or do you want you to tell your boss? When you're an indie author, your readers are your boss, and you want them to hear about any difficulties or any concerns that they may have. You want the conversation to start with you so that you can control that narrative or at least be more impactful on it versus them learning that it's on Amazon and that you didn't even tell them.
Yep, I agree. And I think, this is your seventh campaign and you're still learning new things because you're doing
Always.
things differently. So it's important to remember every time you do something a little differently or try something new or stretch in a different way, you're going to run into new obstacles and obstacles that weren't there. As someone who works with offset printers all the time, it's like you have to give yourself 6 to 8 months extra, like more time than you think, and you're like, no, there's no possible way. It's like definitely. Then there are always unforeseen issues and formatting, and the more language barriers you have, the harder it is. And then shipping and customs and port fees and the whole thing, it turns into a whole other fulfillment dilemma. But that's part of it. And then you learn. And I totally agree. As long as you're communicating whatever issues you're running into with your backers, they understand. And if you've already delivered the ebooks, they have this story, and they'll love the hardcover, and it'll all be worth it. And then you'll know in the future, like, okay, delivery will happen in 10 months when we're a little closer to it. So
Mm-hmm.
very good. So what would you say, it sounds like you're saying the best parts about running a Kickstarter campaign is, obviously a fun way to engage with your readers, grow your readership, build a community. But what would you say is sort of the downside or more the negative aspects of running a Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah. So the number one thing is work-life balance. It's because it's project-based work is very freeing in that you're no longer feel the need to always be selling. Okay. Because what we can do is while we're engaging with people on social media for most months out of the year, we're just chatting, we're just entertaining, we're just being a brand, we're commenting, we're letting people know who Kaylin is, and I'm doing my own stuff and I'm letting people know who I am. All right. And then you come to the project and it all happens at once, which in some ways is very nice, but it's all happening at once. And like for this campaign, we ran it longer. That disrupted things. We also, again, we learned something new. This was a higher pressure thing. Again, Kaylin's been dreaming about it since she was 9, you know. Um, that all kind of got to us a little bit. And so my first piece of recommendation for that is to before you start the Kickstarter, actually just write down what your daily habits are. Write down what time you're waking up. Write down like I have breakfast, I go for a walk, I go for a shower. Just give yourself a little roadmap of what a normal day is for you before the Kickstarter, because what you don't realize when you have the Kickstarter and you're disrupting your life and your pattern over this project because you're responding to messages and you want to get your update out there and you need to let this person from this newsletter or this podcast know something. All right. You will suddenly realize all the good habits you've built for yourself they get torn away. And at the end, you'll be picking up the pieces and not knowing what you forgot and what goes where. So create a little roadmap of your life. By the way, it's probably a good exercise just to figure out where you can improve that roadmap. Give yourself that roadmap so that at least when you're done, you have an idea, you have a skeleton structure of like how to get back to normal, once that's over. The only other struggle, besides just normal, like minor headaches of like, oh, shipping and customer service, the only other struggle that we've really faced is that people confuse my impact on the Kickstarter. Okay, this is actually something that we only ran into with this latest one, is that a lot of people that we know, we go to book clubs with these people, are diminishing Kaylin's role as the writer and emphasizing my role as the marketer because I'm the one with the degree, and they're like, oh yeah, it's. I think that with most of them, it's a defense tactic of like, why am I not successful? Oh, it's because I'm not married to a marketer. Certainly, I help. Okay. But the actual relationship that's happening here is more of like an athlete and a coach slash manager. Okay. She's the talent. Okay. I would be selling garbage if I was selling my own stuff. Okay. I'm not the one running in the Olympics. Okay. I gave her a little bit of coaching. I showed her how to do a few things on social media to help that grow. And she's slowly absorbed some of my marketing prowess and methods into her own stuff. And then she's the one who's taken it to the finish line. All right. And having to re-educate people who don't know us at all, and even people we know, to say like, no, you don't get it. I did 6 months of work. She's done years of it. You know, I'm like you. I should be in the background. Like no one knows who the manager for the person on the Wheaties box is. Okay,
Right.
that's my role. That's me. I just pull a few strings so that you know about her. All right, but that's the weirdest thing that came across on this latest one, is that we finally got good enough where people were like a little envious and like, okay, but like why you and not me? Oh, it must be him.
Right.
We're getting over that.
It's tough, and I applaud you for saying, for giving the credit where credit is due, because it is Kaylin's writing and her creativity and her story. And you both as a team have done a great job at introducing her writing to people over time. And it's really her writing that has built the community. Yes, there's marketing with everything, but it truly is when you are story based and story first. It's the story, and she's the one writing the story and putting it out there. So yeah, all the kudos go to her, and then you are in the support role and making that happen. But totally agree, as a coach, it's important to say like, they're the one who deserve all the credit. I'm here in a supportive role and, helping be a part of it for sure, helping support and be a part of it. But she's the one crossing the finish line. She's the one taking it to the end. So good on
Without her,
you.
there's literally nothing. And the other thing to say about that, like, I'm just there to increase impact of her talent. Okay. So for example, if I was writing it, we would have a lower conversion of one project to another. Okay. Because my writing wouldn't be good enough to carry people over. All right. She's good enough that people want to actually keep writing her. My job as the marketer is literally just to remind them. That's what email newsletters are. They're just a reminder of like, hey, you wanted this a couple months ago. You wanted it 1 month ago. You wanted it last week, and you still want it today. Please don't forget to do that, because the project ends soon. All right. And that's where most writers struggle, is like they're so good at talking about their characters and their world. And when it comes to themselves, they're like, who am I? I'm not special. The only thing I bring to the table is audacity. Okay. And I just give her a little bit of that. That's my talent, is to believe that I'm worth something. And that's the thing that most authors actually struggle with.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I say you just need some white male audacity and
Yeah.
you'll be good. Just take a fraction of it.
It's the one piece of straight white male energy you need in your life.
Yep.
All right, is to just believe.
Yeah, just believe in yourself.
Regardless of what you're actually capable of or what your qualifications are.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? A little bit of delusional thinking, especially in this realm where we're writing books.
Mm-hmm.
We're not selling snake oil. We're not harming anyone. These are stories. This is some are inspirational stories, some are entertaining, some are educational. But we're selling stories and making a difference in people's lives through the written word. So have more audacity, have more confidence in yourself that yes, you are worth something. And why not be a little delusional in your thinking and see what you can achieve. So this is great.
It is a little bit of kind of just fake it till you make it, and this is just the classic story of like how many people rejected J.K. Rowling. All right, how many, if you read Stephen King's book on writing, how many rejection letters did he nail to the wall? Okay, you are told that you're not worth it way more times than you're just looking for that one magic time that someone tells you that you're worth it. But for the rest of the time, every successful writer, athlete, politician, everybody, they're the cheerleaders saying that they're worth it out there to convince the world, because the world loves to grow weeds way more than it does to pick out the roses. All right. And so you got to be in charge of your own garden, just for a random analogy out of nowhere.
I love it. I love it. And also, it sounds like you ran into a little just to keep the garden analogy going, a little tall poppy syndrome where, the people in your community are like, oh, why did you guys succeed? Like almost, the crabs in the bucket trying to pull you back down. And I think, so many authors have fear of failure, but then a lot of authors have fear of success as well, because success does set you apart from someone in a different way. And they're like, oh, what did you do? What's the secret that you did to achieve this? You must have done something other than hard work, repetition, consistency, and talent. You must have done something other than that. And it's like, no, I just did hard work, repetition, and talent.
Here's a great example of that, is that it should be obvious, and it's something though that I've had to learn, is that writers are extremely romantic people. Okay, they romanticize what it means to be a writer. Okay, they romanticize and idolize and heroize the people that write the books that they enjoy, completely oblivious to the fact that they're perfectly normal people. And the first time we really experienced this was with this latest work. We go to this convention. Kaylin is under 30. She's very young and has this wonderful, beautiful face and smile. All right. And I cannot tell you how many people approached her and was like, how old are you? You're doing this? That's amazing. what they did, this was at a library of book event in Akron, Ohio. It was free. It was a free event that we signed up for, and we put work into doing our booth and having that beautiful banner and all of that. And that's the work of it. But actually getting behind that booth was something that anyone could have done. Launching a Kickstarter and it be like, especially with micro, it being successful is something almost anyone is capable of if you're willing to do the work and a little bit of research and planning. Okay. But writers do get this imposter syndrome because they romanticize the final product. All right. Without realizing that the barrier to entry is actually extremely low. And that's just, I say that as an encouraging point of saying, like, the difference between you walking around that book fair and you being behind the booth is actually much less work than you think it is. You don't have to be special. No one interviewed us. No one said, why are you worthy of this booth? Okay. We said, hey, we think we're worthy of this booth. Can we be on it? And they said, yes. And that's just putting yourself out there. Tear down things. You don't need to be the idol that you've turned people into.
Right. Zach, you're taking down everyone's excuses. And so I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, I wish I could be an author, but it's going to be this, this, and this. And oh, I can't do this because of all these reasons. And they hide behind the excuses of, oh, it needs a big budget, or it needs this, or it needs that. And you're saying, no, just do it. The barriers to entry are very low.
My poetry, when I started selling poetry, I published 2 books of poems on Kickstarter. I did not want to be a professional poet. Okay, I was writing haikus while I was delivering pizza, and I had the white male audacity to say, I should get paid for this. Okay, and that's what I did. And I ended up with 2 whole books of poetry. I didn't put them on Amazon, and I did nothing else with them. Poets are also the most inwardly focused people. So it's a very niche market. And I saw that the market opportunity there wasn't very large. All right. But the point being is that, like, I'm not even a great poet, and I did it. Now, that being said, it's perfectly good to be aware of your limitations. For example, Kaylin as a fiction writer versus me as a fiction writer, I have stories I want to tell. All right. I've written a couple of short stories that I'm proud of, that I've given to people and gotten good feedback on. But I'm also realistic that as a very hands-on dad who works 40 hours a week, who's helping my wife grow her career while also growing my own side hustles, do I have the time to develop my writing to the point where I can be as good of a writer as I want to be when I'm putting that out there? No. I can't do that right now. Maybe there's a time where Kaylin can sugar mama me. All right. And I get to become the ideal house husband.
You're working on it. You're making it happen.
I'm out here trying to be a house husband. All right. When I get to that point that I have time to develop my writing and do the fiction side and put out my own fiction books, great. However, I can do nonfiction. I'm right now taking the time that I hope in 2025 I will put out a book on micro Kickstarters. I'm building a community around that. I'm engaging with people within the TTRPG space. And by engaging with them, I'm doing the kind of blog to book method of, by putting a bunch of content out there, then taking it, setting it aside for when I'm ready to wrap it all up into a cohesive thought of a book, I'll be able to do that. That I'm capable of. And so that's what I'm going to run with. And that's, you do have to be realistic with yourself of what you're capable of, what you can do with your time, your life, your abilities, and where do I need to develop. When I have the time and when I have the inspiration, I write short stories that I try to be proud of. And then I have my wife, who's actually good at this, to tell me where I need to improve.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. If you could give someone 2 tips on how to grow their following prior to a Kickstarter launch, what would you tell them?
Number 1, because this is, I'll tell you what mistakes not to make.
Okay.
Number 1 mistake, don't be on every platform. Okay. You'll burn out. Burnout's the number 1 enemy to all creatives. Okay. Especially when you're trying to do content marketing and engaging with the audience on multiple platforms. Pick 1 or 2 platforms that you are already on and engage with. Okay. For most of you, that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, something like that. So pick 2 that you already interact with, and then 1 that you're interested in. All right. For me, this was Twitter and Facebook. I tweeted 1 thought every day while I was in the bathroom. All right. When no kids were around me and I wasn't at work. Okay. 1 thought per day. Eventually, I screenshotted those. I put those around Facebook, and I was able to grow the Facebook group and the Facebook page. Okay. And then I made memes while I was in the bathroom. All right. I did the bare minimum, okay, to slowly grow something and avoid burnout. Eventually, I had enough time on my plate where I could actually just read my tweets and make it into a TikTok. And I was able to grow my TikTok. So the first thing is start small, start micro. Okay. 2 platforms, 1 that you're interested in, a little bit of experimentation to find the balance. All right. Focus on sustainability first. Quality will happen naturally over time. Do as much as you can with as much as you have, and then let the quality follow. Experiment here and there to refine the process. All right. That was like 20 things.
Yes, that's very good.
So I meant to only say 2, but that.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I agree. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
If you want to help me in my quest to become a house husband, you can go buy my wife's book, Awakening Anne. The ebook is on Amazon, or you can sign up for her email list at applewhitegames.com, and go to Kaylin's tab and sign up for the email list so that when we do launch that paperback on Amazon, you'll be the first to know. And if you do read it and you do love it, please review it.
Perfect. I will link to everything below so people can easily access Awakening Anne and sign up for Kaylin's newsletter. Thank you so much, Zack. It was wonderful. You shared so many amazing insights, and I'm sure a lot of people will get some interesting takeaways from this. So thank you for being here.
Yep. And also, if you have any questions, just hit me up online. Thank you, Lisa, for having me here.
Thank you.
And I hope everyone had a good piece of value that they got out of that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.